world's changing. And you are right in the center of it.
I don't know what's ahead, but all bets are off.
Conor McGregor that is, his war with Dana, and has now tried to schedule a charity exhibition fight with Dustin Poirier. So he took to social media, as I'm sure we all saw. We have some footage of it, I believe we'll put up here in just a minute or two. And he eventually just hit up Poirier and said, hey, man, you want to do something for charity? He told him he admired his Good Life Foundation. He would have one as well. They would do it in Ireland. Dustin seemed game. And then he said he was going to take the conversations offline to progress them. All right. What the hell is going on here, BC?
This is Conor upset at the machine, upset at Dana, and really trying to now book his own territory. Specifically in that chain of Twitter events, he was saying, let's do it separate from the UFC. And look, if they wanted to do... Here's the deal about the boxing thing, right? If Conor wants to fight Floyd again, okay, we talked about that. If he wants to fight Manny, which he does, look, dude, you're going to get sent to hell. You want to box Poirier? If there's somehow you could pull that off, yeah, cool, I'd be into it. How about you get back in the octagon, bro? And I know there's people from our debate on Monday that are like, oh, BC, you're supporting the evil empire here, and don't you understand what Dana's like? I do, bro. That's business. Have you guys ever worked anywhere before? Your boss doesn't always set it to you straight, right? There's a game within the game. There's a language. I'm not saying Dana's clean. I was just saying Conor kind of went over the line, and this is with the DM showing, but bro code, all that, whatever. But this is an extension of that. He's basically saying, F you guys, I'll start trying to book my own territory. The problem is, look, these guys are under contract to the UFC. You want to go grapple on Chael Sonnen Submission Underground or something, whatever. If you can pull it off, that's fine. Hey, Conor, how about you get in the cage and fight Dustin Poirier in a rematch? That would mean a lot and would actually give you a justified path back to the lightweight title and the Khabib rematch that you covet, or if Khabib retires, the damn title itself. And this is certainly not coming from a Conor hater. I love me some Conor. You know that, Luke, okay? But this is all just a big charade and a party. There's money in Saudi. I'm sure Conor can fight if he really wanted to. I know he had big plans for this year. COVID derailed them. Dana's not perfect. But go back to the negotiation table and see what you can figure out, bro. Come on. Enough of this crap.
What about, let me play devil's advocate, what about Conor's claim that he's trying to get fights and they're putting him on the shelf?
Well, look, as we saw from that, here's the whole deal about him sharing those DMs, Luke. It didn't make him look good either, right?
That's
he wanted a Diego Sanchez fight that didn't make any sense to anybody. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Dana didn't potentially bait and switch or say something publicly that wasn't true. Again, it's the freaking game. I mean, like... It's what it is. This isn't like your typical office, even though in your typical office, a lot of weird shit goes down too, just so you know. But this is what it is, Luke. I want to see him back. Come back, bro. Okay, make it happen. Stop doing this. I'm going to show you how, what my brand, we already know how big your brand, we already know how big you are. That's why you get paid more than everybody else. But, you got to come plug back into the matrix once in a while. And if you want to fight, if you want to be a real fighter, fight, bro. Okay, that's my statement right there. That's BC the fan and journalist coming together to tell you that right there. I did pop though, by the way, Luke, when he responded to that Ariel and DC show clip and was like, "Hey DC, you fat boy," and kind of went down that road.
DC's been all right. Between Jan Blachowicz and Conor McGregor. Poor DC's been getting fat shamed on social media every which way to Tuesday, bro.
Well, he is thick with about 4 C's ever since he beat Vulcan. He just never went back, right? That's
true. It's true. Here's the thing for me that it's like I just don't listen. If you look at any standard UFC contract, and again, there may be examples that we're not aware of, but every time I've seen one, this clause has been consistent, and it was one of the reasons why some of us were skeptical that a Mayweather-Conor fight could have ever happened before it did, obviously. Because the UFC has put in a provision or a clause that says if you want to do pro wrestling, jiu-jitsu matches, like pro ones, obviously, not training, boxing, kickboxing, whatever, understand something. We promote MMA, but we are your sole promoter, period. Right? And so the UFC doesn't seem to care if you want to go do, fight to win pro, the jiu-jitsu thing with a gi on, or even like ADCC if you can get invited. They don't seem to care about that. But if you're going to be throwing them hands, they want to make sure that they get approval for it. And it's been very hard to get. You'll recall that Anderson Silva could not get approval to fight Roy Jones Jr. 6, 7, 8 years ago, however long it was. So to me, it's like, guys, we know you can't stage an exhibition bout because even those are covered in that contract provision. BC, why don't they learn the lesson the way it should be learned, which is it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission? If they had gone silently behind the scenes and said, I'm going to show up to ATT or you come to Ireland, you couldn't do it as big as normal, but you record sparring sessions. You record even a smoker fight, right? Oh, it's just training. We're not fighting. It's not an exhibition. It's just training. Have a bunch of videographers record it, a bunch of interviews on the outside, save it up, and then say, if you want to see it, we're going to stream it at noon on Saturday or whatever the hell. Buy the pay-per-view then. How could you stop it? These guys keep setting up scenarios where they have to go hat in hand to the UFC, who's going to say no, rather than doing it in a way where if you define it as an exhibition ahead of time, you're labeling it in a way that precludes you from doing it. If you do it after the fact and say, no, this is just training. This is two old foes putting down the sabers and learning from one another. Why can't they just do that?
I mean, look, I could break down exactly what you're saying, and, could they pull it off if they announce? But you got to actually announce something early enough to get everyone's attention, Luke, and I think in that short time, UFC could step in legally and try to stop it. The whole larger point is this. I don't believe Conor actually is going to do these exhibitions. I think it's more of a larger public negotiation. I don't doubt that Dana would prefer Conor come back, maybe next year when we can get more people into a stadium and make it financially worth it. I also believe, and maybe you guys disagree with me, and everyone out there seemed to disagree with me on Monday, and that's fine, that if Conor really, 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 really wanted to fight right now and just went to Dana and was like, I just need it. I just need to get back. Let's figure it out. They'd figure it out, Luke. There's a lot of freaking money in the Middle East, right? Why are we going to Fight Island in Abu Dhabi? There's a reason.
Very quickly, there's that DC tweet.
So I'm not doubting that Conor wants to fight and that Dana wanted Conor to fight on the terms that made best sense for the UFC. I'm not doubting all of that. But how do you think this development plays into it that just recently happened overnight with Khabib's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, coming public and saying Dana and company came to him, just a couple days ago, and said, what would your guys' thoughts after Gaethje Nurmagomedov, if Khabib wins, that Khabib and Conor would resuscitate The Ultimate Fighter, put it on ESPN, and lead to their rematch next year for what could be Khabib's retirement fight. Now, according to Ali, Khabib was like, absolutely not. This guy's a piece of shit. I don't want to, you get near shit, you start to smell like shit, all that great stuff right there, Luke. But does that show you, is there any way we can read really deep into that and see that Dana is trying whatever he can to protect Conor's brand so he can get to that Khabib fight and may not actually want Khabib or Conor to come back before that in any sort of competitive fight, which had really kind of been my working mission statement from the beginning. Like, they're in an interesting spot coming off that Cowboy fight, quarantine or not, because the payday for Khabib Conor too is so ridiculously massive for the company that, a loss would ruin it. So is that part of this in your eyes, the back and forth between Conor and Dana?
It's a great question. Like the only break the glass in case of emergency, and let's put him there behind that until, you really have a need to pull him out there. That's one theory. I think that's a great one. I couldn't really argue with it.
I know it contradicts what I just said. Sorry, just real quick. I know it contradicts what I just said about the situation. I'm just asking you if you think this is what's going on.
I think you can't discount that. The other thing to think about is, like, BC, if I had to ask you, not counting that interview he did with Okamoto, Dana White, after Conor chucked the dolly at the bus, not counting that, is this the worst that Conor's relationship has ever been with Dana? I kind of wonder if it is. Now, I don't know that either, but, for them to have this kind of disagreement and this kind of, you're lying, that's the dirtiest thing you could do. Remember, they say stuff euphemistically to do business all the time. Conor never says no, blah, 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 blah. And I know that there's been times, especially around that Mayweather fight where they were butting heads, but for the purposes of public appearances, they were just, doing the businessman thing, which is fine. It all makes sense. Now they can barely hang on to it. You're lying, dirtiest thing you could do. Maybe this arrest in Corsica, maybe there's something more to it. I don't think so. It seemed like there wasn't a whole lot to it in the end. But it does feel like to me between that where it's like, okay, we want to make sure we don't lose this. And also, they seem to not be getting along. I wonder how much that plays a role as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, what else could Conor do to soil it more? Come out and say they're Eskimo bros? I mean, they're at a rough spot right now in this point. But this is going to be controversial, okay? Does Dana and UFC underpay guys and do a lot of shit? Yes, okay? Does he lie publicly? Probably. Yes. I think we catch him in that a lot. But, you know, UFC has done a lot to help and protect Conor. I mean, Luke, you've seen that Conor McGregor documentary, right? That followed his rise. I mean, are other fighters getting the kind of treatment where you didn't see it, Luke? Is that what you're saying?
I've not seen it, no.
Okay, well, there's this moment when Jose Aldo pulls out of the fight when it was originally scheduled, and before they kind of announced Mendes as the replacement, that, like, you know, Dana and the Fertittas are going over Conor's house that he's renting in Vegas and just hanging out and strategizing and drinking whiskey and shooting the shit, you know, and you've seen the famous pictures of them partying and laughing, and, you know, like, Conor got a certain level of treatment that nobody else did. Now, that's also because he was able to draw on a level that nobody else did. But can we look back to the bus incident? I can't stress this enough. What Conor did, and, you know, he hurt Ray Borg, and he almost effed up Rose. I mean, there was a lot of other people involved. Dana did not slap his wrist once, Luke, and in fact, as a reward, put him into a title fight in the biggest fight in the promotion's history. They have done a lot to sort of support and protect him. That whole early retirement thing from UFC 200, yeah, he got pulled, but then we made UFC 202, and it did the biggest, you know, pay-per-view numbers ever to that point, I believe. So, you know, from Dana's perspective, Conor's retiring left and right. He's a wild card. He's in the headlines constantly for bad things. It's not like we are talking about an angel here. So if Dana has to play certain level of tricks, look, Dana plays a lot of dirty tricks with a lot of people.
Are you in?
This is our time. The world's changed, and you are right in the center of it.
I don't know what's ahead, but all bets are off.